Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Yesterday, the President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, made a statement and he used the word war instead of the special military operation. And we had a lot of weasels saying, oh, first time when Putin admitted that there's a war against Ukraine. Yes, that's changed. It started at a military operation, special military operation, and due to the influx of weapons and support from the West, it turned into a war. The Russians realized that, hey, we can't just employ 150,000 people to fight these guys, plus the other, 20 to 50 other countries that support Ukraine. So they realized, wait a second, we're not fighting Ukraine here. We're fighting the whole bloc on the other side. So we gotta up our little, strength. So what they did that partial mobilization, and they bring more troops and more weapons to the front. Now it turned into a front in the past, let's say 1 month and a half. It turned into a war from the Russian perspective. When they announced and they changed, the mobilization, the partial mobilization, that's when the Russians said, you know what, let's increase the pressure. Because before this, to be honest, the Russians fought with Ukrainians with this, using this. You think I'm too, arrogant saying that? Well, look at the population of Russia, for instance, 145 million people or so, and they employed what, 150,000 soldiers at the border when they invaded. They fought that against the whole Ukrainians and who else was over there. Now obviously that I'm talking about the Russian army, military, because they obviously recruited, able men from the territories that they liberated, according to them. And of course they had some others from Kadyrovites, and they had mercenaries, correct? Alright, so that's what it is. And they say, wait a second, these guys have more support than we expected. Well, let's change. Click. And now everybody's, oh, it's a war. You got them right, it's a war. And what if it's a war? Oh, are you going to get tangled in any semantics here? I don't remember the United States declaring war on any of the fucking countries it invaded and destroyed, do you? No, so let's don't get involved in this kind of semantics. Oh, it's war right now. Oh, you can call it however you want. If someone punches you in the face, you can say, well, it's a little bit of upbringing methodology or something. Semantics is one thing, the action is. What the Russians did when they invaded, that's an invasion. You can call it however you want to call it. How do you invade? You invade a territory. You're invited, not invited. Is it yours, not it's yours? You moved towards someone else. You got in that. You can call it however you want. The fact is, those guys came west, right? What do you want? And the other guys shot back. What? I mean, semantics after all don't matter as long as you win. When you win, doesn't really matter. Why? Because you're gonna count the victims and you're gonna give the press conferences and all that, communiques and all that. Not the guy who lost. The guy who's going to lose is going to shut the fuck up and is going to say, yes, we started the war, yes, we were bad, and yes, we lost because we deserved it. Remember? Okay. Actually, the truth is in between. More to the left or a little bit more to the right. Rarely is all the way to the right or all the way to the left. When I'm talking about, rarely one side was 100% entitled to kick the other side's butt. So let's see what's going on here. We got this article from Ukrinform, and it's from today, the 23rd of December 2022. These guys, the Ukrainians, give us an update about the Russians regrouping, bringing more weapons, bringing more fighters, soldiers, and they're like, what's going on here? It's going to be another attack. It's going to be another major offensive. You got them right. It's going to be another one. Now they're at level number 2, and if the number 2 doesn't bring the expected success, there's going to go number 3, and then no results, number 4. And I think the Russians, until they get to 30 million people mobilized and all the army ready to fight, that's the last level. No, the last level is when they push the buttons for nuclear weapons. That's last level. So there's, I don't know, about, like, let's say about at least 5 or 7 more levels. The Russians are capable of, turning squeezing the thing, turning the screw. With oh my God, the Russians are losing. They're trying to get the most effective way of fighting a war. Get the results with the minimum effort. Well, it was not so, because they didn't know the guys over there were going to be so numerous. So they say, okay, well, I'm going to try a little bit more. Punk. No, it doesn't work. A little bit more until it works, and then they go with that, and that's it. Why? They don't want to have problems in Russia. They don't want to have their boys killed. They don't want to have instability, economic, political, and so on in the country. So why should they? They try little by little by little, and when it's going to work, they leave it that way. And what the Ukrainians going to do? I mean, they need 18 years until they have the ones that were born this year to be able to fight. Do you think the war is going to expand 18 years? It's not going to be. Do you think the peacekeepers from the West will send their boys to be killed by the Russians? I don't think so. They are already there. I'm having a gut feeling, and not only a gut feeling, I have others that say so. So, war update. Russia brings more soldiers, military equipment to front line. Right. Russian troops have increased the number of personnel and the volume of military equipment and ammunition delivered to the areas of hostilities by rail. So the Russians are not running out of armament or people yet. The relevant statement was made by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine on Facebook, and Ukraine Foreign correspondent reports. The enemy is making attempts to conduct offensive operations. Attempting. So if this comes from the Ukrainian, you've got to be sure that they are advancing. But they try to minimize. They are attempting. Okay, in Liman, okay, Bakhmut, and Avdiivka directions. Used to be Novopavlivka and Zaporozhia as well. It comes down here and is holding the defensive Novopavlivka and Zaporozhia and Kherson directions. So remember, Liman, Bakhmut, Avdiivka. Probably, I'm assuming that the Russians are way ahead of where these guys are saying. They're not going to say, yes, the Russians are kicking our butts. I mean, you don't do that. And the Russians don't do that either when their roles are reversed, obviously. Over the past day, Russian troops have launched 1 missile strike, 4 airstrikes, and opened fire with multiple land rocket systems 16 times. The threat of air and missile strikes on Ukraine's critical infrastructure objects is persisting. And it says, in the Volyn, Polisia, Siversky, and Slobozansky directions, the situation has remained rather unchanged. Russian occupiers are planning to deploy a field hospital within the territory of Belarus. Oh, they're going to get ready to do something? I don't think so. In Slobozansky direction, Russian troops used tanks, mortars, and artillery to open fire near 15 settlements. Okay, now, when you hear tanks, usually that's an offensive, but hey, they're not going to say that here. In the Kupiansk direction, Russian invaders are attempting to improve their tactical position. The enemy shelled 14 settlements, and then in Liman direction, Russian occupiers again inflicted fire damage near the Luhansk regions, Makivka, Ploshchanka, Chervopopivka, and Dibrova. In the Bakhmut direction, Russian troops opened fire near 22 settlements. In the Avdiivka direction, Russian troops shelled the Donetsk regions Vodiane, Pervomaiske, and Marinka Nevelske. In Novopavlivka direction, Russian invaders used tanks and artillery to open fire in Donetsk region, and it gives about 5 settlements. In Zaporozhia and Kherson direction, Russian occupiers continue to cause terror against civilians living along the right bank of Dnieper. The enemy used cannon and rocket artillery to attack over 40 settlements. Russian troops also launched an airstrike near Kamyanske. According to the General Staff, in order to tighten administrative and police measures within the Zaporozhia region's temporarily occupied areas, about 500 Rogsgradia servicemen came to Berdyansk. Over the past day, Ukrainian air forces have launched 7 airstrikes on enemy, no, not airstrikes, strikes on enemy personnel, ammunition and military equipment clusters. Ukraine's missile and artillery units hit 2 Russian command posts, 2 ammunition depots and 11 personnel clusters. The enemy's final losses are yet to be checked. So the offensive goes as planned. Liman, Avdiivka, Bakhmut, and they are the rest is just bam 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 boom boom boom. But I suspect this coming from the Ukrainians, that actually the Russians are advancing more than these guys are saying, and their successes are, as I always say, about 3 times. So if they say, well, they advanced 1 mile, you multiply it by 3. If they say, well, we blew up, 9 cluster whatever command and post, you divide it by 3, so you get about 3. That's how it is. When the Ukrainians say, well, we lost 3 people, probably always use the 3 all the time. Probably they lost like 9. That's how I got to, when I verified the information, and usually that's the way it goes. When they say, well, they advanced this, and then you look on the map and it's this. Oh, okay. And with a pattern you realize that's kind of like how much they lie. Oh, both sides, okay? Why? For obvious reasons. Maximize your successes, minimize your losses. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.